Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Get ready to have an embolism.
3 weeks ago, House Oversight had this hearing with actual Twitter executives who had actual firsthand knowledge about what happened in 2020. And that didn't go so well for the House Republicans because real evidence showed that there wasn't coordination between Twitter and the federal government.
The Twitter files are real evidence. They are emails that show correspondence between the FBI and the executives at Twitter, including Yoel Roth, who was the head of the trust and safety team. They just have no response to it, and so the only other thing that they can do is try and discredit the journalists who reported on the story.
As they'd like the American people to believe, and that all the so-called Twitter files really showed was a discussion on content moderation, and that we only got a fraction of the discussion.
Well, you got the fraction that showed the collaboration between the FBI and the executives at Twitter. I can't help but see the parallels here between the January 6th footage and her complaint that the Twitter files didn't release enough files. So in the January 6th case, the media, the government, all showed the American public just a very tiny slice, a cherry-picked slice of that video. They didn't show the video of the 120,000 people who were peaceful. And, you know, that's another thing about all that, is that there were 120,000 people there. Out of that, around 300 have been charged with violent crimes, fighting with police. And then there were like 900 people that were charged with trespassing. So it really was mostly peaceful. But for the most part, the American public doesn't have that perception because the Democrats and their state media cherry-picked videos to disseminate to the public.
So now we're back again. No surprise. What else have they got to talk about? Not what's interested in the American people are interested, not what taxpayer dollars have brought us here to Washington to do.
Yeah, the Democrat is not at all interested in talking about exposed corruption that implicates her party.
This isn't just a matter of what data was given to these so-called journalists before us now.
She just said so-called journalists. Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger are both longtime career journalists. I mean, Matt Taibbi, up until he started exposing Democrats, was well known as a left-wing journalist. Same thing with Barry Weiss and Michael Schellenberger. All these people were always considered journalists up until the point they started exposing Democrats. The member of the government doesn't get to pick and choose who is and isn't a journalist. The entire point of journalism is to hold people like her to account, to hold power to account. Journalists are literally anybody who is an American citizen because the First Amendment guarantees every U.S. citizen a right to free speech, the right to protest, and that includes the right to a free press.
My name is Matt Taibbi. I've been a reporter for 30 years and a staunch advocate of the First Amendment. Much of that time was spent at Rolling Stone magazine. Ranking Member Plaskett, I'm not a so-called journalist. I've won the National Magazine Award, the I.F. Stone Award for Independent Journalism.
She's not even listening.
And I've written 10 books, including 4 New York Times bestsellers. I'm now the editor of the online magazine Racket on the independent platform Sub.
That is just unreal. He's sitting there. She called him a so-called journalist. He starts explaining his credentials, which goes back 30 years, and this is what she's doing. She's just talking, ignoring, not paying any attention, showing utter contempt for these journalists. And why is she so angry? What is she, like, just look at her. She looks so unhappy and depressed. Why? Like, what about this story makes her so angry? It's because her party gets exposed. It is exposed that the Democrats worked with the media and the government to suppress their political opposition and sway the election in their favor. Now, this is where things get really crazy because she starts trying to dig for the sources of this story. Why would why would she want to know that? What we should be talking about is the corruption that was exposed and the fact that the government essentially got involved in an election and using suppression and censorship swayed it in favor of Biden. But of course, that's why they want to cover this up. They can't let that come out that happened. The narrative is that it's the Republicans who are a threat to democracy, not them.
Emails did Mr. Musk give you access to?
I mean, we went through thousands of emails.
Did he give you access to?
There was no way that.
That's probably closer.
Yeah.
Probably close to 100,000. Only 338 of those 100,000 emails. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And then who gave you access to these emails? Who was the individual that gave you permission to access the emails?
Well, the attribution from my story is sources at Twitter, and that's what I'm going to refer to.
Okay. Did Mr. Musk contact you, Mr. Taibbi?
Again,
She's
the
still digging for
attribution my
sources.
story is sources at Twitter.
Yeah.
Mr. Schellenberger, did Mr. Musk contact you?
Actually, no. I was brought in by my friend Barry Weiss, and so this story, there's been a lot of misinformation.
And Mr. Weiss
or
brought you in.
disinformation about
Mr.
that.
Taibbi, Ms. Weiss, thank you. Mr. Taibbi, have you had conversations with Elon Musk?
I have.
Okay. Mr. Taibbi, did Mr. Musk
What is
place
this
any conditions on the
questioning?
use of the
Would the gentlelady yield for a second?
Like, what country are we
as
in?
long as my time is not used.
Are you trying to get journalists?
No, I'm not trying to get, no, I'm
Yes,
not.
she
I am
is.
asking,
Sounds like it.
no, well, if
What
you let
in
me
the
finish.
world?
And you had conversations with him, you said you weren't going to agree to who your sources were. I'm not asking you your source. I'm asking you if you had conversations.
She's absolutely asking for the source. And I just want you all to remember, back during the Trump years, anytime Trump or Fox or anybody really criticized the media, what did they say? They said that that was a threat to democracy. They said that it put them in danger. I remember Brian Stelter said that Fox News was leading a hate campaign against journalists. What do you call this? This is actual power attempting to use their power to silence journalists who are trying to hold them accountable. So now you're going to see this Democrat try and make the argument that you're not allowed to hold Democrats and the government accountable because people threaten them and they supposedly get threats. It's really similar to what we've been hearing from the media and Democrats concerning the January 6 tapes. Nobody's allowed to see these hidden videos because it puts them in danger. There's security threats, which seems to be their kind of go-to when it comes to justifying the suppression of information they don't want the public getting.
Of homophobic and anti-Semitic threats and harassment against me, of which Twitter has removed vanishingly little. And following the Daily Mail's decision to publish where I live, ultimately I had to leave my home and sell it. Those are the consequences for this type of online harassment and speech.
Okay, we're talking the people who are now going to make the argument that free speech of their opponents should be silenced because people threaten them are the very same people who were cheering on the release of the addresses of SCOTUS judges and the media who said it was no big deal that these people were parked outside judges' homes threatening them, which eventually led to a guy actually trying an assassination attempt on Judge Kavanaugh. So those people are now going to make the argument that you're not allowed to expose them and their corruption because they get threats.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'm not exaggerating when I say that you have called before you two witnesses who pose a direct threat to people who oppose them.
Did you hear that? A Democrat politician, a member of the government, just called two journalists a threat. A threat. Because of the story and who it exposed. You're not allowed to expose us. You're not allowed to expose what Twitter executives did because it is a threat to them. That is very significant because she's the one with the power. And now the only reason that she's saying that is as a justification to silence them. That's the justification you're going to use to silence all of us. And they're going to go far beyond that at some point. Eventually, they're going to start rounding us up and throwing us in jail. Now, I know you're out there saying, Ryan, that's crazy. There's no way that's going to happen. You're just being nuts. No, I'm telling you, the reason that the reason they're saying these crazy things is because in their heads, they already know what they want to do, but they got to justify it somehow.
It's funny when people have to go through that.
Yeah,
exactly.
you're fucking funny.
This is unacceptable. I'm ready for it.
No, you're unacceptable.
I don't know if a lot of other people are. But just as it was unacceptable for Kevin McCarthy.
Like, the lack of self-awareness here is just mind-blowing because right now, she's the one with the power. She's sitting up there with power, looking down on these journalists who really have no power. And she's telling them, you're a threat. You're a threat because you're doing journalism that I don't like. Like, okay, so we apply your standard that you're using right now to yourself, and now you're the threat. I mean, isn't that how this works? No. I mean, that's how it works in objective reality, but it doesn't work that way for her because outside of us and Fox News, there's really nobody to hold her to that standard.
But just as it was unacceptable for Kevin McCarthy to provide 41,000 hours of sensitive security footage to a biased talking head in an effort to rewrite what happened on January 6th. This is a new Republican playbook, apparently.
Mr.
Risk
Chairman.
American safety and security to score political points.
So, you see, it's the same thing. It's just like you can't expose us because we get threats from it. You can't expose Boston Children's Hospital, who put out videos saying that they do hysterectomies and gender surgeries on minors. They said it right there in the video. But then if you report on that, then you're putting them in danger. And now you can't see the footage that they want to keep hidden from you because somehow it's a security threat. And anybody who does try to expose it, well, they just want you to die. I mean, this goes back to Obamacare, and when Democrats in the media were saying Republicans want you to die because they opposed Obamacare. What did that lead to? That led to a domestic terrorist attack on Republican senators by a guy who shouted, "This is for healthcare," while he shot at them. And these same people now are saying that you can't expose us, you can't report on us, you can't do any of this stuff because it is a security threat. Folks, I gotta tell you, this is the actual threat to democracy. You got these people who literally want to criminalize their political opposition. They want to criminalize the speech of their political opponents. They want to censor and shut you up, and then just use your imagination to what happens after that, because I'm telling you, we are on that road. We are heading down it. The media does not spend every waking moment characterizing their political opponents, the Republican Party, as an actual terrorist organization, which has been said multiple times across the media. They're not doing that for no reason. All right, lastly now, we have Jim Jordan's response to all of this nonsense, and you're going to love it.
The American people to see, you don't want the American people to see what happened, the full video, transparency. You don't want that, and you don't want two journalists who have been named personally by the Biden administration, FTC,
Boom.
in a letter.
The Biden administration.
And you're saying they're here to help us. They're here to tell their story. And frankly, I think they're brave individuals for being willing to come after they've been named in a letter from the Biden FTC.
Hell yeah.
Is this your question time now?
No, I'm responding to your ridiculous statements you made in your opening statement.
Okay, well, let's get on with it.
Oh, now we want to get on with it. So you can say all the things you want. And I point out
did in my opening statement as well as you had an opening statement. You said what you needed to say in your opening statement, and I, as the ranking member, have used my time.
Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record.
All right, that was pretty good, but not the ownage I was talking about. Remember back when Stacey was claiming that there's no evidence in the Twitter files showing any kind of collusion between big tech and the government? Well, another one of the Democrats makes that dubious claim, and Jim Jordan just unloads.
About Twitter. And even with Twitter, you cannot find actual evidence of any direct government censorship of any lawful speech.
Not true.
When I say lawful, I mean
not at all
non-criminal
true.
speech, because plenty of speech is non-criminal.
I'll give you one. Gentleman's time to expire. I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the following email from Clark Humphrey, Executive Office of the Presidency, White House Office, January 23rd, 2021. That's the Biden administration, 4:39 a.m. Hey, folks. This goes to Twitter. Hey, folks, wanted to use the term they used the term Mr. Goldman just used. Wanted to flag the below tweet, and I'm wondering if we can get moving on the process for having it removed ASAP.
Boom.
That is.
Did you read the below tweet?
And then if we can keep an eye out for tweets that fall in this same genre, that would be great. This is a tweet on the very issue that Thomas
Can
Mr.
you
Massey
just,
brought.
for the fullness of the record, can you read the, because I've not seen this.
But this
Can
was
you
in the
read
Twitter
tweet
files,
that
folks.
it's
This is the
referencing?
kind of stuff I'm talking about.
With me, but the
There's more
point was,
examples.
tell us, you said no time did government try to tell Twitter to take that, to explicitly remove something, and
No, I said explicitly remove lawful speech. Lawful speech. We're going to conflate. The First Amendment is not absolute.
Twitter, this is something from Robert Kennedy Jr.
It is lawful speech.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
This is unreal.
Because Robert Kennedy Jr. said it, that's why it's lawful speech.
Just a minute, Mr. Goldman.
Unreal.
All I'm saying is you said in no time
Lawful
did the government
speech.
explicitly
First
say to take a
Amendment's-
tweet down.
I
Here
mean,
we
when
have
people
it,
say
right
things
here.
I don't
This is
like.
the White House, they couldn't even wait 2 days. 2 days into this administration, they were asked Twitter to take something down, and we will get you the underlying tweet.
Thank
With that,
you.
I recognize the gentlelady from New York.
Will you place it into the record as well?
Brilliant.
Sir? The underlying tweet?
Robert Kennedy Jr. Is talking about Hank Aaron's death after he received the vaccine. That's
That's not lawful speech. Hank Aaron, having an opinion about Hank Aaron's death after the vaccine, that's not lawful speech according to Democrats. Well, folks, that's about all my brain can take of that. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. If you did, hit that like button, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and then, as always, make sure to leave a comment to vent some of those frustrations. Thanks a lot. I'll see you all in the next one.